Hey, my wonderful 8th grade band students. I'm so proud of you. You've been sticking with your instruments and just doing some amazing things. Every time I hear you play, I feel like you're getting better and better. And you might not notice improvement. Maybe some of you haven't been doing very diligent, and you can actually tell that you've actually gotten worse. But for those of you who've been really diligent and are playing for me, I'm hearing improvements and growth in your sound. So keep at it. Now, today is a Method Book Monday. The first thing I'm going to ask you to do is to play pages 22 and 23. You have two actual band pieces on there, Gregorian Chant and Ritual and Rain Dance. If you have Devises on there, I don't care if you play the top or the bottom part, doesn't matter to me. But those two pages are kind of taking everything that you should have learned in the book up until this point and putting them into those band pieces. So play through those, have fun. There should be even a recording with it if you want to play with the recording, but play through those first. The other thing I'd like you to do before we really hit the blue book is play through your 8th grade scale sheet. Make sure you go through the first 3 scales on there today. Now, today we're going to be looking at page 24 in your blue book, and I'd like you to be practicing on this throughout the week, page 24. Now, if you are finding that 24 is too hard for you, and maybe you're behind and you don't feel like you're ready for this yet, if you go onto our band's YouTube page, there's a playlist for 8th grade technique book tips, and you can find any page in the blue book that you'd prefer to be focusing on this week instead of 24, or something earlier that you feel is more appropriate for you, and go through the playlist through the video on that particular page instead of this video. If you feel like all of those videos in the 8th grade playlist are too advanced for you, then go through one of the 7th grade videos. That's fine. No shame in that. But otherwise, we're going to be going through 24 today. And this is about continuing the chromatic scale, but also learning how to play cut time, which is fun. All right, the first piece I want to play is line 99, the warm-up, the chorale. And before we play it, a couple things to keep in mind. We have a repeat sign after the first 4 measures. Then we go on to the DC all fine. Remember, DC stands for da capo, like your cap, the top. You're going to go back to the top, to the beginning of the piece, and then you play to the fine and stop. Generally speaking, when we have a DC all fine, we don't take repeats after the DC. So we're not going to take that repeat again. We'll stop at the fine. So let's play the part. All of our parts might sound different. It's a chorale, so just follow along the best you can. Alto sax, I know you have an alternate fingering on there for the B flat, so make sure you do that. And let's play. 1, 2, 3. All right, play through that piece again, and I want you to pay attention to a couple things. First of all, how are you tonguing? Make sure you're tonguing very gently, a D syllable instead of a T syllable. Also, make sure that on your ending notes, your half notes, anytime you get to the end of a phrase, stop your note with your air, not your tongue, just a ta. Your air stops and you're done with that note. Third thing I want you to pay attention to is dynamics. Even though there's not dynamics written on the first 4 measures, you can still have a crescendo into the phrase and then decrescendo out. It's more fun to play that way. It's more musical. So rewind the video, play that with me one more time, and then we'll move on. All right, we're going to move on to line 100. Now, this is a chromatic scale. Most of you should know this pretty well by now, but we're going to play through it in case you don't. There is introduced a new note for some of you. It's a higher note for the brass players. Now, brass, when we're thinking the high note, usually we like having everything inside our mouth nice and open. Okay, our tongue low in our mouth, our teeth open. As you get to the higher note, you have to naturally be thinking a little bit more T instead of toll. Toy. That's what your mouth is naturally going to do. And so if you're having a hard time hitting that note, lots of air and think more T. Also, on the percussion part, if you're playing the drum part there, if you have a drum set, then you can play all the bass, snare, and cymbal. If you don't, then play the cymbal part on the rim with the left stick and play, I'm sorry, with the right stick, and play the snare drum part on the head with your left stick. So let's play line 100 together. 1, 2, ready, go. Sorry about the blip on there. Play through that again if you need to. Also, I want you to pay attention, woodwind players. A lot of you have some little stars on there showing you an alternate fingering. Whenever you do the chromatic scale, use that alternate fingering. It's really important and is very helpful to making a good clear sound. So play through that line one more time, and then we'll move on to the next one. All right, we're going to do 101 and 102 together. This is introducing cut time for the first time. So, many of you have already played cut time, but some of you haven't. It's a fun thing to play. It's a really important skill to have as well. So before we get to 101, I want to go to 102. This will help us to get 101 and understand it better. So let's play 101A. Before you play it, check your key signature, and let's start. That will impact like your note in measure 4, your second note. Here we go. Line 102A. 1, 2, 1, and 2. All right, so we're going to go to 102B, but I want you to notice instead of in 2/4 time, it's written in cut time. Well, what is cut time? Let's talk about this for a second. All right, I wrote line 102B out, just the first 4 measures, and I put it in common time or 4/4 time. Okay, and you can see my counting here is really simple: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Okay, now 4/4 time, I want you to imagine you have a 4 over the top of a 4. Okay, if we take that top 4 away and replace it with a 1 over 4, you get 1/4. And so you can kind of imagine that 1/4 note equals a beat. All right. Now, if I change it to cut time is the same as 2 over 2. Let's take that top half note, that top 2 away, replace it with a 1, and we get 1 over 2. One half note gets a beat in cut time. And so things are going to be a little bit different when we go to cut time. A half note is going to get a beat. All right, this is 1 beat long instead of 2 beats long now. Now this gets a little tricky. This gets a little confusing. That means if this is 1 beat long, 1, 2, we would count it that way. 1, 2, 1, 2 for the half notes. If that's 1 beat long, that means all of the quarter notes now are half a beat long. And so instead of being 1, 2, 3, 4, we're going to have 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. All right. So a good way of thinking about cut time is that now these are like eighth notes. These are like quarter notes. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1, 2. It requires a really big switch in your brain. And if this is the first time doing it for you, it's going to be a little confusing at first, but you'll catch on quick, I promise. Okay. So if we have cut time, it's the same as 2 over 2. A half note gets a beat now. 1 and 2 and. Let's play 102B now. This is in cut time. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. that's interesting. 102A and 102B sound exactly alike, and they should. 102A we count 1 and 2 and. 102B we count 1 and 2 and. They're exactly the same. It's just a different way to spell it out. All right, if this doesn't make sense to you yet, don't freak out. For some people, it takes a while to understand, and it's hard for me to explain without being in person with you, but you'll get it. Let's go to 101, and what I want you to do is take your pencil out, and I want you to write in the counting the best you can think. Okay, this isn't cut time. And then pause the video, write it in, and then start the video again and check it to my answer. All right, check your answer on line 101 to mine. Okay, it should look like this. And then I want to count it, and you'll see that, again, a half note gets one beat. Each quarter note is kind of like an eighth note. Instead, we have two quarter notes to make one eighth note, one and. Let's count it together. Ready and count. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2, 1 and 2 and 1, 2. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2, 1 and 2 and 1, 2. Is this making your brain hurt yet? If not, then great. If it is, then it's okay. It's normal. Okay, we're going to play 101, and we're going to play it on a concert E flat. The directions on 101 above it says what that note is if you don't remember. So let's play 101 together. 1, 2, 1 and 2. One tip for just learning cut time is a lot of people will just translate things in their head. If they see a half note, they'll think of it as a quarter note. If they see a quarter note, they think of it as an eighth note. If they see a whole note, they think of it as a half note. So they're kind of translating everything into half as much as what you would normally think of it as. All right, we're going to play 103. Before we do, look at the counting. 1, 2, and 1, 2, and 1, and 2, and 1, 2, and. All right, now the trickiest part of it is two measures before the first ending. Two before the first ending. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1, 2 and then it goes back to the beginning. It's got a little chromatic part in there, and then you also have a key signature that you need to pay attention to. All right, let's play it 103 together. 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, rewind the video and play that a couple more times too. Also pay, again, special attention to the part right before the first ending. That's the part you probably got thrown off on. So play it through a couple more times. All right, and then the last thing I want you to do is to play through line 104. It's a private lesson line. I'll give you more video instruction on this line later on. What I do want you to do is make sure that you practice through page 24 each day this week. Just get good at it and comfortable with it. We're going to get to a little bit more complicated cut time rhythms next week. And so if you have a good foundation this week, the next week's going to be pretty easy. All right. So good practicing. Thanks for being diligent and sticking with it today. And I can't wait to see you again soon.